Welcome to Real Estate Espresso, a 15-minute cup of joe with Mike and Kat discussing the latest topics, questions, and news in real estate technology to help enhance you and your brokerage's success in real estate.
So today we're having a conversation with Aaron Jones, who is the founder of Lead City. He's a broker and one of the top-rated real estate agents in the Midwest. I would say he's an all-around nice guy, and I have been looking forward to this because Aaron and I have worked together for many years, and this has been a long time coming. So Aaron, maybe you could start off by giving us just a quick overview of your background with your education, how you got into real estate, a little bit about your family, so on and so forth.
Sure. Yeah, so born and raised in Okoboji, Iowa. I think that you guys certainly know what Okoboji is, and coincidentally enough, I think a lot of people nationwide have heard of Okoboji anyway. We're kind of a resort area for 3 months out of the year. It's wild and crazy and bustling, and it's awesome. Then 9 months out of the year, it's exactly what you think Iowa is. Kind of,
what it is right now.
What it is right now. That's right. So I'm looking out the window yesterday. Our beautiful lakes that we were just boating on, 2 months ago now have 3 inches of ice, and so it's an awesome place to live, and glad that we're raising our family here. So we love it here. I really haven't gone too far away. Of course, after I graduated from Buena Vista in 1998, I think it was, Buena Vista in Storm Lake, went to work for you, Mike, in Des Moines at a company called Growth Ventures Group, and that was a great experience. And as you recall, I was called home because we were having a baby, and so moved back from Des Moines to Okoboji, and don't regret it one bit.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, Okoboji is beautiful. I've been there a couple of times. It's kind of this hidden oasis in Iowa that you'd have no idea is this just really popular vacation spot. But yeah, thanks for that background information. One thing that we like to do on Real Estate Espresso is we love to ask our guests about their coffee mug. So Aaron, could you just tell us a little bit about your mug and what you brought to the table today?
I did bring a mug to the table, but it's not a coffee mug. It is basically just a water mug. I'm a water junkie. Try to stay away from caffeine because I'm already amped up enough, and if I add caffeine to my diet, I think my heart will just explode. So this mug said, and this is my favorite. I call it my water mug, but it is my favorite, and it was a gift, and it says, some days I'm awesome, other days I look for the phone while I'm on it. And so that's a good depiction of me, where I feel like got so many things going on day in and day out that sometimes you miss the simplest things, and it brings a little levity to your life, I think. So I like that mug.
Yeah.
Yep. And you are. I was going to say you're up at all hours of the night, so I'm surprised you're not on caffeine because you do a lot of work. You're always working, always getting messages from you. So it's surprising that you're not a caffeine addict, but nice mug for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was just about to say. And also on another note, Mike, what coffee mug do you have with you today? I don't think I've seen that one before.
Oh, great. So I wasn't planning this. I didn't even think about the podcast this morning when I grabbed my coffee, but I usually go for the larger mugs in our cabinet, and the only one that was left was this one, which says, it's my wife's, obviously. It says, I put the grand in grandma. So let's just change it to grand and grandpa. Yep. We have two grandkids and one on the way, and it was a big mug, so I just went with it.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Holding that mug up to the camera looked like, holding a fish up to the camera, make it look bigger than what it is, kind of deal.
That's right.
I think for Mike, that's one and the same. Holding a fish
That's right.
versus holding a coffee mug.
That's
He loves
right.
both those things. So
I do. Well, thanks, Aaron, for sharing with us about your family and a little bit about you. And now that we are well caffeinated, let's get ready to go here. Tell us about why you started Lead City. This is kind of a fascinating story to me, but tell us a little bit about how Lead City came about.
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story, and I guess I would usually make a long story short, but since we're on a podcast and we have time, I'll try to give you the details. After Growth Ventures Group, I was able to get a job back home at a furniture manufacturer, and that was where some of my education was, is in engineering and things like that. And so from about 1999 to 2011. I helped run a furniture manufacturer locally. I loved it, loved working with the people, but unfortunately in 2011, as everybody remembers, we had a recession that started in about 2008, and building domestic furniture in the middle of the Midwest was extremely challenging. Our team did really well through that, but we couldn't quite make it through the recession. So the plant shut down in 2011, and so I was like, okay, what do we do? And I'd always had a passion for real estate. Grew up in construction, being around Okoboji with real estate values in the millions of dollars in some places was always fascinating to me, and so I loved it. I was always paying attention to real estate, always looking at homes for sale in the paper. And in the late 90s, you still looked at the paper, and
this is way before Kat's time. See, she doesn't even know.
That's right. And so I remembered really my whole time at Stalker. I'm just thinking, I should get my license. It's one of those things. I had a comfort level security blanket, and I never did it. Well, when you have to get a new job and you have to do something new, that's what happened to me. And so. Immediately, once we heard the news, we were being shut down, I started working on getting my license. I had my license shortly thereafter. So that's how I got into real estate. But taking that a step further, as far as how does that lead to getting into Lead City? Well, the key for me. When I was making this transition was I had to sit back and think, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be successful? A new guy entering a real estate market that has a whole bunch of heavy hitters as real estate agents. Am I going to sell a house? Am I going to sell a condo? I'm hoping for just one a year, just sell something. And so there was a lot of analysis that was taking place there in my head, thinking, okay, what do I have to do to compete? And then it clicked. It's kind of the light bulb turned on. As I looked around at all the different brokers, nobody was paying attention to technology. Nobody had any internet presence. And I was fortunate for this because most of the brokers, either didn't have a website, or they had a website that wasn't succeeding at all with search engine optimization and Google rankings and things like that. It just wasn't important because everything was going just fine for everybody, and so it was kind of status quo. Everything was working, and like, okay, here's an opportunity for me to break in. So was doing all this research. Okay, what is the best way to generate leads off the internet, really starting with the basics. First thing I knew we had to do was we had to have a great website with IDX listings, and we had to connect to IDX so that we have everybody's listings available for the public, because my goal was to find buyers from out of town that were coming to Okoboji that already didn't have a relationship with real estate agents. So we looked and searched on the internet, and there were solutions out there. Solutions like IDX Broker is one of them, and that was probably one of the bigger ones back then. But at the time, IDX Broker was basically what I would call it a template-based, subdomain-based solution. And all that meant is that if my website is bogeyhomes.com, well, if I were to use IDX Broker, then my IDX link, my IDX site was a subdomain of IDX Broker. So it's bogeyhomes.idxbroker.com, right? And so all of my listings, all of the listings from the IDX feed, I wasn't getting credit for. IDX Broker was getting credit for those, and that's how all of these different template-based IDX companies worked. And the reason they did that is because that was the only way that they could grow, right? Or at least they thought that was the only way that they could grow, how they could scale, right? Mike, you and I have talked about, how do we scale? And so that wasn't the solution, because I knew that my website had to get credit. And what that means is that you had to develop your own website with a development team organically, where they're actually setting up your own Rets feed, and it's all done on your domain and all done on your hosting, so that the Googles of the world will give you credit for the indexing of all of those IDX pages. And so that's a long story, but that's exactly how it began. And so I reached out, I remember what it used to be called, now it's called Upwork, to find a company that specialized in this. And we're very, very fortunate to find a company called Varsha Web Labs, who did exactly what I was looking for, and because they knew there was a need, and so that's where it started.
So you started with kind of the IDX side of things, but how did you start to say we needed to start combining some of these other features that would make us more efficient? And I know you mentioned that earlier. Efficiency is a key. That's kind of what you were looking at in your other job. So, talk to us about how you started to add components, which eventually becomes an all-in-one solution. How did that come about?
Again, when I was getting into real estate, it wasn't, okay, I'm going to be a software guru and we're going to build these apps and that's what we're going to do. I got into real estate to be an agent, and it just so happened that at every turn I recognized that there was a need here and a need here and a need there. And so, so for example, when we started, we had our IDX website, which was really great. I was fortunate enough to be a top producer in the first year. And that's not me. That's not my marketing. That is completely Lead City. And so
your use of technology,
the use of technology. And so I knew that we're on to something. And so now we're 2012, 2013. And it was great because I was basically partners paying our development team. I was like, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And these are just little features and little updates to the CRM, but it's beautiful because if I had bought into IDX Broker and things like that, I couldn't have done any of that, right? And so I just continued to make these incremental changes to our CRM and to our website and things like that I knew that we needed. And we did it. That gets us to about 2014, and I was with Remax and still am currently with Remax. And our broker at that time came to me and said, Aaron, I know that you don't want to get back into management and ownership and managing people and things like that, but I don't know squat about technology, and for whatever reason, you've been killing it since you started, and it's not right and it's not fair, but you're doing something really, really well, and I really want you to take over this brokerage, and I want you to share what you've built in 2.5 years on the tech side. I want you to share that with our team. And there was a little arm twisting, and so I decided to do that. And so it was at that point that we made the leap from an agent solution to a broker solution, and that's really when the development took off for Lead City, and we started adding these applications.
Yeah. And I know that it's part of the story is that, and this is the story that we hear from brokers a lot, that brokers are stressed. They don't have enough time. They want more time with their family. They're trying to find that work-life balance. And you use this term often called, I was just caught up in the daily grind, right? And there was just so much that needed to happen. and there had to be a better solution, right? Was kind of your thinking. And that's where I think it's fascinating that you started to build this, but when you became a broker, you took it to the next level, because now all of a sudden you're managing a bunch of people, right? And you're managing like what's my team doing, and what sort of closings do I have? So let's talk a little bit about the vision behind Lead City, because when you approached me about Lead City, you explained that you were trying to help make brokers' lives better. And I was kind of like, okay, well, what does that mean? But one of the first things we did was we sat down and started to put together a mission statement. And we worked on that for a number of weeks so that we had a clear vision and direction for where we were headed. So can you expand a little bit about what that vision of Lead City is, and exactly how Lead City can improve the lives of brokers and really any real estate professional?
My vision from the get-go, especially when I took over in 2014, was to figure out how do we simplify the process of managing our office, helping to manage our leads, managing our agents. So it's so funny, because whether it was 2014 or 2024, it seems like we're inundated with this marketing from companies that lead generation, lead gen. It hits us from everywhere. Oh, we have the best website. No, our website's better. Nobody is providing a compelling differentiation, right? Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that's 2024 and we're still not seeing it, because I saw it back in 2014 when we started the same thing. Nobody was focusing on the broker and the agents, and how they work, and how their workflows are, and how do we make them more efficient? How do we make their workflows easier? We have the website, we have the marketing, we have the transaction management, and we'll get into that. But our focus has been just what you just alluded to, is how do we make our brokers' lives better? How do we reduce their stress, get away from the daily grind, all of those things. And so the beauty about Lead City, and I think the development about Lead City, is that I've been developing this product as I've been a broker. So every day I go to work, I have an issue, how do I fix it? Let's see if we can fix it with software and with development, great. And if we can't, then it's not an issue that technology can solve. But I tell you what, we've made a ton of developments in the last 10 years that with the only goal in mind was to save 5 minutes here, save 10 minutes here, make this easier here, make that easier there, and give our brokers peace of mind, and give our agents an actual solution that they'll use, right? And we haven't even talked about that, but
right.
but that's also one of the things that we talked about right at the beginning was what is special about Lead City? Well, it's actually easy to use, and it's a product that we're going to give brokers that is going to make them happy, because their agents will actually use the thing. And that's the biggest challenge, bar none, across the industry, is getting agents engaged with the CRM and their system.
That's right. I mean, I was getting ready to say that, our mission is to provide that all-in-one brokerage platform that's easy to use. We've said that a couple of times, but it's also loved by agents. That's hard to do sometimes, right? And it simplifies the lives of brokers. But and so we do that by reducing the amount of technology that a brokerage has, because an all-in-one platform allows all the features to communicate and shares information back and forth between each other. Brokers and agents can save tons of time, right? And obviously reduce their stress when you don't have to manage individual applications. So maybe you can talk about what are some of the benefits, like how much time are we saving, and how much time can we do a transaction in? What are some of those benefits from Lead City?
Yeah, so from a stat perspective, as part of our goal, it's been to eliminate waste, speed up the process, reduce training, all of these things. And at the end of the day, that leads to real savings, right? Ask any agent, if you could write an offer in 90 seconds, 90 seconds or less. Write the offer, have it sent off with all of your disclosures and everything. That's pretty compelling, right? And Lead City allows you to do that. And that's just the beginning of the transaction process. Then throughout the transaction process, there's time savings at every step. That leads to 2 to 5 hours of time savings per transaction. And if a brokerage has 500 transactions a year, that's a lot of time. It's a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of time that agent was now able to spend with their family or do some other things, right? And that's really the key. And it's not just increasing the agent productivity, but it's also increasing admin productivity. So this isn't just for agents. We're looking at how does this affect admin, and for every transaction to get from start to close where admin is involved, they're also going to save 2 to 5 hours. You're saving time and money for your agents, time and money for admin, and finally you're saving time and money on your overall technology stack, right? Because Lead City is an all-in-one solution. You're making one payment of roughly $35 an agent. You compare that to hiring Real Geeks and MailChimp and Constant Contact and Dotloop and DocuSign, and I can go on.
Right.
I've talked with brokers that have 22 different pieces of technology that they use in their business, and Lead City can easily take over half of those. So the cost of Lead City was going to be 1/7 of what he was paying.
Wow,
so that's a huge number. It's a huge number.
Yeah. That is huge. I remember just early on, even coming into Lead City and starting to do research analysis on what some of our competitors did, and there really was truly nothing like Lead City that had the extensive amount of different features that we have. We really are that all-in-one solution. And just even seeing the price points of the different competitors that are out there and what an average brokerage can spend on just giving their agents the right tools, Lead City by far is the cheapest option, and in my opinion the best option there really is, because of the all-inclusive, easy to use things that there are within our platform, and it's built with the broker and agent in mind. I'd love for us just to talk a little bit more specifically about what that money saving was for you and your brokerage. Maybe could you tell us kind of on average what you predicted your brokerage was spending before implementing Lead City, and just the amount of money that you've been able to save now that you guys have that implemented?
I can certainly speak to what we were spending before Lead City, and that was with the previous broker. He wasn't the tech guru. He still had admin that was helping him, but he did those same exact things. He had a website designer, and it wasn't even IDX, and so he had a website designer, but then he had to go integrate IDX with that, and then he had to have an email solution, right? And their email solution was MailChimp at that time. And again, mind you, none of this is talking to each other. And then he had to get Dotloop, but Dotloop didn't offer a standalone e-sign solution. It was more transaction management. So then he had to go get DocuSign, and so you can see how this works. And so it wasn't just our previous broker. These are brokers that we're talking to all of the time. This is the case study, right?
Yeah.
And
in
so,
marketing here at Lead City, we reference that as tech bloat, and just this massive amount of just technology that is not efficient. It's necessary, but none of it's efficient really working together. So I know that's a big thing that we have in our vision, is how can we reduce that headache and that tech bloat to minimize it. So I just wanted to add that in there.
And so again, that was 2014, and so getting to today, you have those same problems, but during those times, there have been pains and there's been stress, from all these brokers, and that's where the Zapiers or the with the Zaps come in, and API Nation. You have these companies that and the idea is good. That they're trying to find ways. Okay, well, how can I make this product connect with this product and this product and that product, and it kind of works, but it's not even close to
Kinda.
an actual.
Kinda.
It kind of works, yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda.
But it's not even close to an all-in-one solution where the entire technology was built under the same framework and all the pieces talk to each other. The CRM talks to the transaction management, talks to the email marketing, talks to the website. Everything is completely integrated, and and you can continue your development upon that.
Right. Well, when you were explaining that to me, what you had been building, I mean, I immediately saw the value of what you were doing, right? Because I knew that if you were meeting a need and you were eliminating that tech bloat and you were eliminating a lot of financial obligation through that, I was like, this seems like a no-brainer. And I have a lot of friends and family who are in real estate, as you know, and I kept thinking about how could this revolutionize their time, right? While helping them, keep money in their pocket. And I would ask them, what technology do you use for your IDX websites? They'd give me an answer. Your TMS, your e-sign, your CRM, your audit, your compliance, your onboarding, your document management, all these things. And they would give me answers, like you said, 20 different answers. And I would ask, do any of these talk to each other? And they would say, well, sort of. We have Zapier over here and it does this, but I was like, well, does it pull in all the MLS information? Does your CRM pull in all the content? No, we have to do that manually. Those are the inefficiencies that we're talking about, right? So when you were talking to me about this, needless to say, it was an easy sell for me, right? So, it just makes sense. So let's talk more about the challenges that brokers face. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that they face, and how do you think Lead City helps overcome them? One of them I know is the stress that we talked about.
Yeah, for sure. What do we do to put a broker's mind at ease to allow that broker to sleep at night without stressing the whole time, right? And that's certainly one of the goals. And we have to support. We have to support them with a solution like we talked about that their agents will actually use. I mean, could you imagine, as a broker, could you imagine having 150 agents and knowing that you don't have 10 or 20 that are going to be off doing something else, using something different, that are just going to cause headaches? Imagine having your entire team working under the same solution, same platform. And we're not just talking one piece of it, right? Because again, with these, with the competition, they might be able to get all of their agents using the CRM, but then some of them want to use .loop, and some of them want to use DocuSign, and some of them want to use SkySlope, and all of this stuff. And it's that fragmentation that I think causes some really big headaches and stress for a broker. Not to mention, lack of reporting, and because reporting is a big piece of Lead City, right? If you have a fragmented solution, now you have CRM reporting over here and transaction management reporting over here and agent productivity reporting over there. So it's again, when we can eliminate that fragmentation and provide one integrated solution, that's really a load off of a broker's shoulders for sure from a stress standpoint.
Yeah, and also the agents. You just mentioned reporting. Think about the dashboards in Lead City. When an agent can come in or a team leader can say, what's my productivity? What do I have pending, closing? What are the steps that I need to fulfill this particular deal? That's very, very important. And how am I stacking up against my peers on my team? But also from a broker standpoint, getting that bird's eye view, especially if you have multiple offices, being able to segment those and see how those are comparing and what is happening in each of those. I mean, that reporting and that simple dashboard feature is very, very important. Plus being able to have, to see the commissions that are being paid, the financial side of things, the stuff that the agents don't necessarily need to see, but the brokers do. Very, very important. And that would be a big stress reliever. And if you have all that technology working together, like we said, it also eliminates a lot of expense. So the challenges, that you listed are not necessarily unique in real estate, right? They're serious challenges, but we hear a lot of them complaining, lamenting about, I wish if I had all the money in the world, if I could change one piece of technology, it would be this, right? And we were like, we've got that and then some, but you have to have it all talk together. Mm-hmm. And the coolest, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in talking about the agent piece and the managing people piece, I think that in its simplest, because you mentioned this term, the compliance, and in its simplest form, if you can manage anything about your agents, it's the compliance, right? Because a broker is not only figuratively responsible for their agents, they're legally responsible for their agents and every action that their agent makes. And so the compliance piece is so supremely important in real estate, especially to a broker. And again, when you have an all-encompassing, all-in-one product that you can look at the CRM, you can look at transaction management, you can look at all the document management, you can look at electronic signature history, and all of these things that Lead City has built in for compliance. That's a huge step in the right direction for a broker, because I can't even fathom trying to maintain compliance, having 7 different technology solutions in my office, every one of them having a separate login, all that stuff we just talked about. It's mind-boggling to know how a broker can do that without hiring extra admin, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's really where we save, and so finally the best way to help the broker is, again, eliminate that stress, give them easy compliance, and finally the expenses, right? Mm-hmm. We'd like to think that Lead City is going to be an easy sale because we're by far the most affordable solution, certainly,
and the most comprehensive.
We're the only all-in-one solution. But when you add up all of the different products that other brokers are using, it's a no-brainer. But we don't necessarily tout that, because for me, as a broker, as the developer of Lead City, that hasn't been the most important piece. The most important piece has been providing me and other brokers an actual solution to their problems versus saving them money. Right? We love saving everybody money, but to actually provide a real solution that's different than what anybody else can provide, that's the real value for me.
Well, and we know that we're succeeding when we hear people tell us this is the impact and the value that it's brought to me. I mean, we wouldn't making software for the sake of making software. That's not what we're about. So we have to hear it from our customers. I call them, you've heard me say this, I call them raving fans. And we have a number of raving fans, and I want to talk about a couple people's comments here. And it's not just it's not just marketing fodder, right? That's always good, but it tells us that we're on point. Jason, who's a realtor, says, after 20 years as an agent using other platforms, I could not believe the simplicity of Lead City. I had been mapping my own documents and templates for years. Not anymore. The easiest way to list and sell properties is to have the best tools, and the best tool I've found in 20 years is Lead City. That tells us we're doing the right thing. That's the value. That makes us feel good, but we want more of that. And Lead City, something we haven't touched on, is a way to attract new agents, right? Because Brooke says, and she's a realtor, when I switched to a new office that uses Lead City, I was in awe of the time and effort saved through an all-in-one platform. Everything I need is in one place. I can easily access it from my computer or my phone. It has helped me increase my productivity by 2 to 3 times and become a better agent. I can easily add new clients, contacts in my phone. Managing my transactions is a breeze. It's never been easier. So those are the sorts of things that we want to hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even Beth, she is a transaction coordinator. She says your whole office will love it. Realtors, brokers, transaction coordinators, having the entire office in the palm of your hand gives her the freedom and confidence in managing her brokerage with Lead City. And she says that Lead City is the only platform on the market that truly does do it all. The onboarding with the system is a breeze, she even says. We just want it to be as simple as possible because brokers don't need their lives more complicated. They already have enough to do.
And we haven't touched much on the transaction coordinators, but the amount of work and the process that's built into Lead City that makes their life easier is amazing. So listen, we've had some interesting things happen in real estate this year, as we know, with lawsuits and so on and so forth, and we can get into that in future episodes. But the future of real estate technology is, in my opinion, very bright, and it's increasing in demand. Aaron, when you started, there was very few people using technology. Now they're getting inundated with all kinds of technology. We've found that technology has to work together, right? And that's where Lead City is. And that's why we're so unique. But just to kind of reiterate where technology is going, Forbes released an article that predicted streamlining softwares as one of the top 5 technology trends in real estate and what to expect in the future. That's why we're seeing so much consolidation. We have all these companies buying each other, trying to do what we're already doing, right? They're like, hey, you know what? Guess what? We've been specializing in this niche. Now we need to expand and be an all-in-one. Lead City is already that, right? So, it's very impacting, and it's going to continue to get better, So what do you think the future looks like for Lead City? I mean, are you just going to continue to see those needs and build, or kind of what's the plan?
Again, starting in 2014, we were already building what was needed in 2024, right? So we always want to be ahead of the game. So obviously we've been on the right track, and we'll continue to be on the right track. I love the fact that we have a 10-year head start, right? Mm-hmm. And have the vision for knowing what this industry needs. And you said it. The key word was streamlining technology, right? That's what we do. And so I'm excited about the next 10 years. And I think what's most interesting that we really haven't talked about, and is a belief of mine, and it's been a belief of mine since I started, is that unfortunately, for most agents and brokers out there who don't love technology, who don't want to use technology, they want to perpetuate the thinking that real estate sales is still a relationship business. Granted, many times it is, right? But everybody really needs to accept the fact that real estate sales has been and will continue to become more transactional. It sounds sad. We don't want that. We want to be friends with our clients and things like that, and most agents do. But what I've found is that it's not the agents that want real estate to be more transactional. It's the clients. And so we need to do what the public is requesting. And I've seen it more and more year in and year out, that if you're not investing and focusing on a great technology product, you're going to get left in the dust, because this industry is going to continue to become more transactional, meaning you got to have a great tech stack behind it.
That's a great point. And I just was going to chime in here, Kat, because I was thinking back, the transactional, it's been ingrained in everything. We're ordering groceries from Walmart, going to be delivered. When COVID was here, we got really used to doing things remote, and it became part of our lives. And you're right, it is becoming more and more important. And as you're talking, I'm thinking in the back of my mind of all the cool things that we have on our tech roadmap that I wish I could share with people, but they're going to be blown away to see what Lead City is going to be in the future, because we're looking at those needs, we're implementing it, and there's so much more for growth for Lead City, and very, very, very exciting. Sorry, Kat, to cut you off.
No, it's great. Like Aaron is saying, we're 10 years ahead of the time. We're ready. We're still developing and building the new features to stay even further ahead. So I'm really excited. And just even as the marketing manager here for Lead City, I would just like to add, if you want to learn more about Lead City, head on over to our website. On our website, you can click on our Schedule a Demo button. It's in the top right right-hand corner of our website. You can just click on there to have a conversation with our team member about what we can do, what your brokerage's needs are, and how we can help you. Or, we also have a free tech exam that you can take to see if your brokerage suffers from tech bloat. We'd love to help out in any way that we can.
Yeah, that's a great quiz, and it's eye-opening to people. So I would reiterate that. Go take that quiz and see how much money you can save, and see how much we can consolidate all those technologies. Well, to kind of wrap up here, the future of Lead City and real estate gets me excited. It's exciting to see how ahead of the curve we are and the trends that we're taking advantage of. And we just want to get Lead City into brokerages to continue to create more raving fans of Lead City. So what we've been developing is revolutionizing the way that real estate professionals and agents do business, simplifying their processes, giving them more peace of mind, and fulfilling our mission feels really good. So Aaron, just appreciate your time today. Thanks for giving us the information on the background of Lead City. It's been very, very insightful.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Love everything that you're doing, and certainly proud to be part of this team, and I love where we're heading.
Great. Thank you so much for listening in on our conversation today, and we'll hope you'll join us again next time. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and share this video, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you have any topics you think we should cover next, please let us know in the comments, or you can email us at info@leadcity.com. We would love to hear from you. This conversation was brought to you by Lead City, a real estate lifecycle solution. From the initial lead to the final signature of a closing, Lead City provides a simple solution that allows you to manage your entire brokerage from one easy-to-use application. Cut the technology cost of your brokerage to a fraction of your current expenses. Increase productivity of your agents by 2 to 3 times. And get back your life and peace of mind with Lead City.